January 1943, Casablanca, a little-known town on the coast of Africa, burst into the headlines. Once again, the leaders came together. The United Nations were no longer on the defensive. The march to victory had begun. A blueprint was issued from this conference, the blueprint for invasion. The march to victory had indeed begun, to halt for nothing but unconditional surrender. In May of the same year, after the American and English armies had driven the Africa Corps into the sea at Tunisia, the leaders met to plan their next move. New drives in the Pacific. The invasion of Sicily. In the 3 months which followed, the uphill march to victory began to gather speed. Russia, the lines of the Wehrmacht crumbled under the hammer blows of the Red Army. In Italy, the founder of fascism, Mussolini, that tattered lackey fawning at his master's heels, tumbled headlong from power. Sicily, which had been defended by over 400,000 Axis troops, surrendered to the United Nations. In the Northwest Pacific, the Japs proved by their headlong retreat from Kiska that they too were capable of surrender. In the Atlantic, the Nazi wolf packs were hunted down and destroyed. Night and day over Germany, the bombers rained destruction on industries and communications. Hitler, and with him Germany, were learning something of destruction, learning like the people of Rotterdam, London, and Coventry, learning that the mills of the gods grind slowly, but relentlessly. All these campaigns in widely scattered theaters of war brought new problems, new tasks, new decisions for the leaders. The time had come to meet and plan anew. Preparations for a conference had been underway in Washington and London for many weeks when, early in August, the arrival of Prime Minister Churchill was announced from Quebec, together with the news that President Roosevelt would join him later. In the selection of that city for the conference, the two leaders once more showed their sense of history. It was at Quebec that the opposing generals Wolfe and Montcalm fell in the same battle, and at Quebec their single memorial stands, a symbol of the unity of two peoples who now live at peace together. The Chateau Frontenac, standing high on a bluff above the St. Lawrence, is one of the largest and most famous hotels in all Canada. It was perfectly suited for the conference, and the Canadian government spared nothing for the comfort and security of their guests. Rigid military precautions were enforced before the conference began. The hotel was closely guarded by Canadian troops, the Provost Marshal Corps, and the Royal Northwest Mounted Police. Once again, there were guns on Abraham's planes, anti-aircraft guns. Day and night, Quebec was on the watch. Behind the system of defense, many services were quickly and efficiently organized. The courier service, vital link between the conference table and headquarters all over the world, had planes standing by at every hour of day and night to speed urgent messengers on their way. A censorship of mail was established, for plans of attack would be drafted, plans whose success would depend on their secrecy. By the time the staffs of the United Nations arrived, a system of passes was in force. No one without a pass could enter the buildings where the meetings were held.